Hello and welcome. I'm so happy to have all of you with us today. I still see the number of attendees rising. It's straight up 9 o'clock my time, so I'm in Utah. But I'd love to know where you are joining in as we wait for more people to join. So if you could, in the question panel, go ahead and add your name and where you're coming in from, and I'll try to read them off. It goes by quickly. Sometimes I miss a few, so sorry about that. So let me expand it a bit. Okay, so we have Skylar coming in from Los Angeles, California. Kara is coming in from Chicago. Juliet is coming in from Manhattan Beach. Excellent. Welcome, everyone. Carl coming in from Fort Worth, Texas. I see Robert joining from Oregon, so in Washington. Okay. Mark is coming in from Barcelona. Sarah from Seattle. Mark Hacker is coming in from Littleton, Colorado. Welcome. And Jason looks like is coming in from San Antonio. Ian from Oregon. Carrie from Houston, Texas. John from, John from Boston. Welcome. Danica from Calgary. Julia from Ireland. I hope I said that right. Beth from Columbus, Ohio. Welcome. And Silwa, maybe I'm pronouncing that one wrong too, from Charlotte. Rick from Colorado. Lionel from Waco, Texas. Howard from Pasadena. Ray from South Africa. Wow, great. Welcome, Ray. Awesome. I love to see when we have a global audience joining. So it's exciting to see someone from Ireland and Africa. Oh, I missed one from Nigeria. So welcome, everyone. It's amazing. So I have with me Eric Wing today. So I'm excited to have him on. He's always fun to chat back and forth with. Hopefully you'll enjoy the presentation as well. But let's go ahead. It looks like our numbers have leveled off a bit, so I think we'll go ahead and get started. Just to introduce you, again, I'm Michelle Rasmussen. I'm the AEC Content Manager for Autodesk's Customer Success Organization in the Learning Services Group. And what I do is I make sure that you have the content you need to learn how to use the software most effectively. So if there is something you need to learn and something you don't understand about the software, feel free to reach out to me. Again, I have Eric Wing joining me. He's the Director of BIM Services for CNS companies. He's also an adjunct professor at Syracuse University. So Eric, is there something else you'd like to say about yourself? Introduce yourself.
Sure, yeah. I'm the Director of BIM Services here at CNS companies. I used to say CNS engineers, but we've onboarded a lot of architectural firms, so they get mad when I say engineers. So I'm the director of our BIM services nationally. We have about 25 offices now across the country and counting. And I'm the guy who keeps all of our design options, phasing, and Revit models working and communicated.
Yeah, and some of you may even recognize him from LinkedIn Learning as well. He does quite a few courses for LinkedIn Learning or lynda.com. So really great presenter, love having him on. Just to let you know, we are all muted. Well, not all of us. Eric and I are not muted, but I will mute myself when he's presenting for you, just so that we can reduce the background noise. We are recording this, so if you have questions, you won't be able to just open your line up by yourself. Raise your hand in the attendee panel, and I can open your line up so you can ask your question live if you choose. And if you'd like to ask them in the questions panel, you can add them there. And what I'll do is I'll try to keep an eye on that. And when I see there might be a good opening to ask the question, I'll go ahead and interrupt Eric and ask it live for you. If you would like your line opened and I miss it in the attendee panel that you raised your hand, definitely let me know. Just put in the questions panel, can you unmute me, or you know, something like that, just so that I know you'd like to speak. Because our meetups are really supposed to be a way to allow you to connect with each other. Um, Being virtual, it might be a little bit more difficult than if you were to go to a live meetup where you're able to meet face to face with everyone. But I would highly, highly encourage you to ask your questions, make your comments. If you do something a little differently, I get it. There's always more than one way to skin a cat, and we'd love to hear from you how you're skinning the cat. So
Hmm.
just to let you know as well, so these are the current meetups that we have up here on the screen, and we're adding 2 more very soon. So be looking for the building engineer. That would include our MEP engineers, mechanical, electrical, and our structural engineers, so that we can start to bring that community together. If we have enough interest and in one or the other of the disciplines that fall under building engineers, we may split that out in the future. But for now, we're going to bring them together. So be looking for that. Hopefully we'll have some information for you soon on that. Excuse me, the air is really dry here in Utah, so I might be coughing a bit. That's another reason I'll mute myself when I hand it over to Eric. But we also have our Vault and Data Management coming out soon. So again, be looking for that. And if you would like to present anything at any of our meetups, we would love to have you as a guest speaker like I'm having Eric today. So definitely let me know. At the end of the session, you will receive a survey, and there's an opportunity there for you to add your email, or you can add it in the questions panel and just say, hey, I'd like to present, give me your email, and I'll reach out to you. All right, so today's course is connected to one of our connected learning courses, or I should say today's meetup. Basically, let me actually go over to it in our Learning Hub. There we go. Okay, so this is our Connected Learning Hub. This is what I am responsible for all of the architectural, engineering, and BIM courses. So if there is something that you would like to learn, again, let me know. If we don't have it in a meetup discussion that we only do once a month, I can always make sure that we get it into the connected learning. And here we have quite a few architectural courses. Eric was kind enough to help us get quite a few of those in. And when I click on the architecture, you can see there's a number of learning paths from existing conditions modeling, coordination, conceptual design, analysis, and communicating design intent. And then for those that ask for it, we have just a few basic courses just to get you up to speed. If you're brand new to Revit, you can go ahead and take those. But really what we want to do is we want to take a look at the conceptual design, because this amazing course that Eric created for us is what we're going to talk about today. So as we're looking at this, I want to open up a poll here, and I just want to find out how many of you actually took the course. So let me launch this. So if you will, let us know, have you taken that course? I'm seeing 100% right now are saying no. Hopefully you at least knew about it, or maybe you didn't need that course and so you didn't take that one. But the nice thing is I'm starting to connect our meetups to these courses so that you can go and take that course anytime, anywhere, on your own time, at your own pace. And then this meetup is an opportunity for you to come and ask your questions live. So be watching for that. If our meetups are connected to any of the courses, feel free to go take that when you have some time, and then come back and ask those questions live to our presenters. So it gives you a chance to ask those experts questions that weren't answered in the courses. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close this and share the results. We can see that 5% said yes, you did take it. So I'd love to hear from you what you thought of it. 84% said no, and 11% said you'd like to know more about it. So let me go ahead and hide those results. And I'm going to click into our course here just so that you can see what it's all about. Basically, it's a way for you to learn how to present to your customers or your clients the design options. I don't know how many times I've gone, and I love home shows, and I love to go and look at new houses, and I'll go and you know, go through the model homes and everything. And I always love to ask them, well, what other, you know, countertops do you have options, or what other paint colors, or, you know, whatever the case might be. And the great thing is Revit will take care of that for us. And so we're lucky enough, again, to have Eric here to help us with that. So let's go ahead and go back over to our presentation. And these are some of the tips that Eric wanted to share with you. And so without further ado, I'm going to turn the time over to Eric and let him to speak, since I'm sure you're tired of me. So Eric, it's all yours.
Thanks, Michelle. So yeah, design options, the concept is fantastic, right? And the name of the course and the subject is actually, you know, win better work by using design options. And that's great if we win the work and then we don't have to have design options during design, right? That's not always the case. So when I address design options and talk about it, there's a couple things that come out. First is I do understand that there are some limitations to it, and if you've used design options, I'm sure you've run into it, right? So it takes a while to be able to get through design options in Revit and to have it do what you want it to do and not get into situations in other parts of your model. Its enhancements are on the wish list, and you know, it's certainly stuff that we can better moving forward with the actual functionality of design options. But a couple of tips to remember, just to kind of go through it, what I've learned on using design options, because I generally learn stuff by really screwing it up, and then I go back and apply those mistakes to what I use moving forward. And the first thing that I run into is a lot of people tend to replace phasing with design options, which is not a good idea. I've seen it in the results, right? You print the stuff and you have displayed what you want to have displayed. However, the model gets into a state where it's hurting a little bit. So phasing is one thing for renovation work. Design options are another thing that show options to your client. So getting into that, if you've used design options before, you'll understand that if you have something dedicated to an option, right, you're going to have to basically add more options than you're going to need. Can everyone see my screen? See it?
Yes, we can see that. Thank you.
Excellent. So what I think I'll do is I'll kind of jump into this now. So I have basically a pretty empty model. So what you'll find that if you start to put stuff onto an option, you'll see that item cannot be added to another option. So essentially what I like to do, like if I have options across the front here, right? If I jump into my design options, we'll see that it's empty, right? So in our model, we're going to have different options in different areas, but the way Autodesk does this and the way Revit does it is genius, because of the fact that what did we used to do before? We used to copy the model into another folder, and we used to have different AutoCAD or Revit models with different files. What happens now when the option's accepted and we have to merge the models back together? And also what happens if the rest of the team has no idea we're doing design options somewhere in a model, and they have to keep working, right? So now we have part of our model that we're moving back and forth through design options, as easy or hard as it is. The workflow is still there. Your workflow is not interrupted, right? The rest of the team can work blissfully unaware that you're doing any options to another part of the building, right? So if we add a new set, right, this option set, you know, we rename it, we'll just call it front options, right? We hit OK, and then there's going to be your primary option set. That'll be your default as you jump into a view. We can rename that option. I'll call it straight. We'll click OK here. Now for that front option, of course, we can add as many options as we want to it. With me, I'm just going to add a couple here, but I recommend adding more than you might need, because that's going to get you out of trouble if, oh man, I need a new option. You might be you might be in trouble. You might be remodeling stuff that you wouldn't otherwise have had to. And if you try to go through the back door, copy paste, Revit will catch you. It'll know what you're trying to do. So if I add another option to this, maybe I'll call it the curved option, and I won't get too crazy on this, right? Curved, C-U-R-V-E-D. My spelling is wonderful. If you've ever gone through any of my models, you'll see that. Yeah, I wish there was a spell check for everything in my life, right? So now if I make a new option set, right, I can keep going. I can rename this to back option S, and I can add the same types of options there, but I'll just stick with the front option, right? So that's fine. So if I close this, what we'll see is we're in the main model. What we'll see is, and this is a suggestion I have, it's some of you might groan about it, but if I have an option that's going to affect these walls, the problem is when it joins with something that's not part of that option, it doesn't, right? So I don't mind typing SL and just kind of splitting. I know, it's not ideal, but I'm over it already, you know? So basically now if I want to just grab these items, now I can, move them to my option, but generally what I do is I'll move them to all my options, right? And I'll go back and delete the stuff I don't want, right? So I'm in my front options, and I'm going to move these both to my straight, my curved options, right? So now if I hit OK, it's going to move those to that option. Now under my main model, right, if I want to, view my curved option, now I can, go ahead and do my design, right? I can create a wall. Maybe I said it was curved, so I better make it curved, right? So, just changing these, it's as easy as now modeling it. As long as you have, plenty of options in there, and you kind of, know what you're doing. And as you can see, everything part of the main model or another option is going to be excluded from this. We can't select that stuff, so you just go ahead and design your stuff, and you're good. Please don't put doors in the way I'm doing it. That's not very uniform. But now we'll see, right, if we want to switch back to the main model, we'll see that our options are now there, right? We're switching back and forth. So if we stay in the main model, now really all we need to do is go to our visibility graphics, right? And we have a new tab, design options, right? Let's see which one I'm doing here, the front option. So, we're going to duplicate a view, and we're going to move that over to that option, right? I know it's just very quick, and yeah, there's a line there, but I always say, listen, it's a lot better than a jacked up corner. And trust me, you will be chasing that stuff down when you're doing design options. So that's really what I wanted to run through, basically in Revit. I think, Michelle, maybe if you could throw the PowerPoint back up. I don't know if I have to give you permission back.
Give me 1 second. Yeah, I do have to take permission back. That's okay. That's okay.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Show my screen. Oops. Is it coming back up?
Perfect. I can see it.
Oh, it went out of presenter mode though, didn't it?
I hate that. So yep, there we go. So like I just said, try to avoid walls from other. I can't see it now.
Yeah, no, sorry. It's all this webinar stuff is getting in the way.
That's fine. No, that's fine. I pretty much. Oh, there we go. So yeah, like I said, try to avoid walls from multiple options intersecting with each other. You can't always. You can't always. But I will try to split my walls in some manner, and right, it's not just walls, it's floors and ceilings, it's roofs. But the big thing is, and Michelle hears me say this constantly, is you got to tell folks that you have design options, right? So if I go into a model my company is full on, like I said at the beginning. We're MEP, architecture, site civil. We're the whole thing. Too many times I've seen an architectural underlay looking at an option that was not intended. So you need to communicate this. And just so you know, every time you cut a section, go to an elevation, it's going to default to the main model. It's not going to default to your primary option. So what you need to do is you need to set up view templates to make sure that everyone is looking at the same exact design option. And going on from that, it's like we said, we're using design options to win better work. However, it's the reality of it is design options are sometimes still design options when you're submitting the project at 100%. I've seen it, but it's off-putting. When you do accept the primary option, it is going to delete everything from every other option you have in your model. Some people have a hard time with that, and I do too. I cringe when it's time to, okay, we're going to do this thing, huh? I always detach my model from Central and save it as a record backup. I've gone back to those record backups. However, accepting the primary option, I mean, I just told you to make a bunch of options and put a bunch of data on that. So what happens? Our model doesn't get smaller when we do that. It gets large, and we have some pretty massive projects that we're doing that. So we've got to get these options out of here. Come on, let's get that primary option accepted, and that's the best thing you can do for a Revit model is kick out those options, but always save a record backup of your model. I'm a big proponent for that because, like I said, I've regretted not doing it before. It was a tough week of remodeling everything. I was not the most popular guy in the office, but at the end of the day, and again, I know that there might be some questions that I'm not going to be able to answer. I don't know. It's design options. So if you know design options and you've got some good questions, it could take more than just an immediate answer here. I might have to get back to you, but no matter what, no matter if it's tough to do in Revit or tough to manage, it is still better than the workflow we had to deal with, right? It's BIM. So we're all working in the same model still, and we're doing the right thing here. We're not copying models. We're not copying around in the same model, which I've seen people do. So this is the workflow. If it's a little sticky and a little tedious, it is. Autodesk is working on it, I'm sure. I don't know for a fact, but it's certainly on the wish list. So that's my tips to remember. Michelle, I don't know if you want to show any polls or anything, or questions, or.
Actually, I've been waiting for some questions to come in. Do you have any questions? If you'd like to raise your hand in the attendee panel, I can open your line up so that you can ask it live, or you can ask it in the question and answer panel.
Sure.
And I don't see anyone bringing anything in. I am curious. I will go ahead and launch one poll while we're waiting for some questions. How many are already familiar with the design options? Are you using it? Are you very familiar? You know just the basics? You're not familiar at all? Okay, so quite a few of you are actually very familiar. That's great.
Great.
I would love to hear some of you that say that you do have, or you are very familiar, because I'd love for you to share your experience with design options. And I do see
Absolutely.
questions coming in, so great. Okay, I'll give you 30 more seconds. I see 64% of you have voted. We're up to 68% who have voted. All right, we're at 70%. About 5 more seconds to get your vote in. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close that and share it out with you guys. So you can see, 25% of you said you are familiar with the design options. Some of you are somewhat familiar, just the basics, and 25% not at all. So great. I love that we're across the board. I did see some questions come in while we were polling you, so let me come back to those. So Juliet actually raised her hand, so I'm going to open up her line, but her question came in the question panel as well. Sometimes I have tried to accept primary and I get an error message that disallows it. Do you know anything about that, Eric? Why they might get that?
I've seen that. So generally what you want to do is, I feel people will always close those error messages out, but the only way to get to the item that they don't like is to expand that error message. So you should be able to drill right down to the element that Revit doesn't like, and you can, unfortunately, probably will have to delete that element. I don't know if you've done that, but they make those error messages really small, and it's not very descriptive. But if you keep drilling into that error message, it's going to bring you to the element that is causing the issues. Generally, that's what I've done when I've seen that and it's fixed it. Sometimes if you don't have the correct option current, it won't show it to you, but it will actually show you the GUID, and then you can just go into your Manage tab, and then you can search for elements on that GUID, and it should find it then. GUID, just the unique ID of the element that's causing issues. And to be honest, a lot of times I've seen it as a phasing issue too. So if you have options combined with phasing, well, I don't envy you if you have those two scenarios going on in one shot, but you might, right? Because we're remodeling a building and the owner wants to see what the options are. Sometimes that'll do it too. But again, it's still going to have that unique identifier. So when you get the error message, drill into it, and it should expose the element that's causing the issues.
Great. And Julia, I tried to unmute you, and it looks like I'm not able to unmute you until you actually enter your PIN. So unfortunately, I'm not able to unmute you, but hopefully that answered your question. Let us know in the question panel if it didn't. So I'm going to look for another question here. So I see, oh, yeah, great. Julia says you did answer her question. Excellent.
Okay.
All right. So Lionel is asking the question, we try to avoid them as much as possible. I guess it's more of a statement, so you try to avoid them. I'm curious, yeah. Lionel, what is it that is making you want to avoid them? And I'm going to try to open up your line. Let me see if it will let me. Yeah, if I can find him. Oh, there you are. Okay. All right. So Lionel, your line is now open. Are you able to speak?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Excellent. So tell us a little bit, why do you try to avoid design options?
In general, they're just hard to work with, and switching back and forth between them and making sure you're in the right one. And then also we've used them, I guess, in situations where we didn't need to or maybe shouldn't have, like we're structural. So we had like model homes and then different footing conditions. So I had foundation options, which really probably should have just been separate models linked in for each site. So
okay.
Yeah, just experience. I mean, they have their place, but yeah, we try to avoid them.
Yeah. Okay.
I agree. I agree, and I'm in the same boat. They have to be definitely shared across all trades, because that actually my predominant trade is structures as well. Yeah, I'll see people throw options in there and just, oh, there's options. Why? You got to really be sure that you want to go down that road and that there's a real benefit to doing it, right? So in your case, again, I would still prefer to do design options rather than different models. But I mean, if it engulfs the entire model, at that point, if your entire model is involved in a design option, it's all right. Now we're at that point where what's going to be more productive for us? You know, I hate breaking the laws of BIM, but if you find yourself just struggling with something and it's just not working, and guess what? Not everyone at your firm even knows how to use design options. So not only are you having to deal with your design options, you have to now educate everyone in the model, and not everyone has the patience for that. At least that's what I have found. So it's I hate to say don't ever save a model, but if it's the entire model, you know, in a lot of cases, maybe that's not an indictable offense.
Yeah, and Lionel, I can definitely feel your pain as far as like the structural, because you know you move one wall and it can change all of your structural calculations. I remember that when I was working with Reevely Engineering in Salt Lake. So I do feel your pain there. Yeah. Well, thank you, Lionel, for being willing to speak online with us.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go to the next question. Jason is saying, we sometimes do prototype project with options. So as to issue construction documents with options, is that a good method of doing that? What would you say to Jason? And Jason, do you mind if I open up your line? I'm going to try to do that. I've opened up Jason's line. Are you able to speak to it? Unfortunately, all I'm hearing is static at the moment. Oh, darn. Okay, so I'll just repeat the question again for Eric then, since all the static is coming in. So Eric, you know, Jason's question was, we sometimes do prototype projects with options so as to issue construction documents with options. Is that a good method?
I think it is, because I mean, we've been looking at the aesthetics of design options, but all of your schedules, all your material takeoffs, all your costing, all those schedules can be put on a design option too, right? So not only are you changing an aesthetic for perhaps a client to view, certainly you're still modeling in Revit, you're still modeling into your database, you're still pumping out schedules, design details. So absolutely, it's a great way to do it. But again, it goes back to just communicating this to, if you have a good sized team involved in it, I mean, and you use design options, which it sounds like almost exclusively, you want to set your company's standards. Be like, okay, here's our design option standards. You know, I know you can't cover everything in a standard, and you can't really put design options in a template. At least I wouldn't recommend it. But certainly, I think that would be a great method of producing prototype type drawings, because again, you don't have a different model for each one, and there might be areas in each of your prototypes that don't change at all. Right? They could be exactly the same. So you're still in the same model, but all of your schedules, all of your material takeoffs, all of that stuff is still going to update based on those options. I would give that the thumbs up. Hopefully I answered your question.
Excellent. And Ian is saying, I wish text annotations and tags would be within options as well. What's your experience with that, Eric?
I wish text annotations and tags could be in options as well. Yeah, that's one of the wish list type items. It can be tough, you know. There's workarounds, you know, but it's yeah, you have to put them outside of the option, which is unfortunate. But when I do display options, I'm going to go into my visibility graphics, and I'm going to have views set to those options, right? So those views that are set to those options are going to be in a view template, which I mentioned that I really like to use. I like to set up view templates. That being the case, that I will have a separate view for each design option. So there's redundancy, and when you accept the primary option, what that's going to do is that's going to delete every view that's associated with that option as well. So it's not like you're going to have a bunch of text hanging around that you don't really want, because it's going to kill the view, and it's going to kill all the annotation detailing that's associated with it. So I'd rather be able to model right. I'd rather be able to put my text, my line work, all that stuff right inside of the option. But yeah, I'm with you on that. So I'm waiting in line just like you. I'm an end user myself, so I concur.
Yeah. And Ian, I'm trying to open up your line. I noticed you asked another question. Do you want to ask that live? Are you able to speak with us, Ian? Oh, no. Okay. All right. That's fine. So Ian's other question was copying and pasting between options should be more robust, or can we have a list of the items that are preventing that from occurring? For instance, how can we parse those items for the culprit? Do you have any tips on
Yeah,
parsing those?
that's the biggest pain. I mean, if it's dedicated to an option, you're not doing it. That's just basically it. It's not gonna let you do it. If it's not generating an error, there's no real way to ferret out what option that. Well, you can select the element and go to the properties, but it's an element by element thing, and then there we go. Right? We're down the rabbit hole of not designing anything. We're looking for properties of objects that aren't compatible with another option. That's why I hate to do it, but in my experience, I just make tons of options and put everything on there, because what you got to do is you got to remodel it in that option. I mean, I showed you an outline of a building, which yeah, that's fine. But man, when we're in the middle of the fifth iteration of some design option and we've got everything stuck in other options, it can be frustrating. So I don't know why you can't just copy and paste something into another option and have it erase any associativity with any other design option. That's the biggest. If nothing gets fixed outside of that, and that gets fixed, I'll be pretty happy, because that is the one big thing. And you just saw me split my walls in half. That's why I did that, because man, it kind of propagates it into your model. So, but once you've assigned that option, yeah, you're gonna struggle with getting that over to another option if you don't already have it created in that option. But like I said, if it doesn't force an error, it's outside of selecting those items and looking through the properties to see what option they're on. Unfortunately, it's the only way to do it. It's hunting. It's hunt and search.
Excellent. All right, so Beth, I am going to open up your line. So Beth made a comment in here, and I loved her comment. We have used design options successfully for a school that has two almost identical buildings with a change at the kitchens. It worked pretty well, except our consultants weren't as familiar with design options, which caused some issues. So Beth, I would love to hear your experience with that. What kind of tips would you share with everyone to avoid issues when someone isn't familiar with the design options?
I guess I'd start with the kind of that class that you suggested now at the beginning, but I wasn't aware of that at the time, and it was just a matter of really getting them on board with it. They weren't aware of it at first, and unfortunately, what they reverted to was using two separate models, which we had to relink each time we needed to print one set or another.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And it's like I said, education and communication is almost equally as important as the options themselves. And I find that sometimes people hide the fact they even did options if it's some shameful thing that they've done to the model. Well, you got to sit people down and really show them how to do it. Again, what I like to do is I'll set up the view templates and just show them that the visibility graphics are really driving what they're seeing. But the problem is, if they're in another model, like an MEP model, where you have it linked in, that causes issues too, because you're only going to see the primary options. So you have to go to the linked model, you have to modify it there, you have to have the same options in your model, right? So then it takes training for firms to do it. And like you said, yeah, they'll throw up their hands pretty quickly and copy that model and then keep rolling, and then it's it. You've lost them at that point. Yeah. But I encourage you to keep doing it, but not everyone's going to be as schooled in design options. Most people aren't. Or if they are, I've been on projects where I just didn't realize there's design options. I didn't look down to see that, oh my God, there's like 5 options in here. So it's communication, I think, and training.
Excellent. Well, you guys just gave me a new idea for a new course, so be looking for a little email on that, Eric. I think it would be helpful, you know, for the MEP engineer, for the structural engineer to learn how to work with the design options that are in the architectural model. So it might be a really good educational opportunity. Thank you. And thanks, Beth, for being willing to share with us.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, well, let's go on to, oh, we're just getting some, you know, Jason mentioned he thinks he hadn't considered schedules that could be options. So thank you for sharing that. Excellent. And Juliet has added another comment basically to her question. And I apologize, I don't remember what we were talking about when this came in. So she said that would be one big reason for my error messages as I copy from one option to another all the time. I had no idea that was problematic. So yeah, thank you, Eric, for sharing that it could be a problem. Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, what other questions do we have? We don't have any others coming in. Do you have more questions, or do you want to share your experience? Because we'd love to hear from you what your experience has been. Okay. Well, it is pretty quiet. No other questions are coming in. And so, Eric, are there any other last-minute tips or tricks that you'd maybe share with everyone?
You know, I like to leave on I'm open. You can always send me an email. I'm on LinkedIn too, Eric Wing. That's probably the best way to get a hold of me. If you just ping me on LinkedIn, I mean, like I said, I'm in there with you. I work in the trenches with everyone else. So if I find that people have done stuff that works, or if you have any unique questions that I haven't figured out, I do like to get in there and figure this stuff out before Michelle has me go online and tell everyone about design options. I like to try to know everything I can about a subject matter. And this is something I don't know if I do or not. You know, I think I have a pretty good grip on it, but you know, you are all in the bucket with me. So if you have any questions at all, or comments, or anything like that, please reach out to me, and I'll be more than eager to talk with you about it.
Yeah, and you know, I'm going to throw this out there as well. At the end of each of our courses, or no, sorry, I'm sorry, it's on the welcome page. So on the very first page of the courses, there's a link to the forums, and you can go out and communicate with everyone else about this specific topic if you'd like by going into those forums. So I highly encourage you to do that. You know, let's continue the conversation. Let's not just let it drop here. Let's continue that conversation, continue to help each other, because, you know, the best way to excel at anything that you do is to help someone else learn how to do it as well. So I highly encourage that. Juliet just did send in another comment. So she says, I use design options all the time, and they work well for me usually. I use them for interior wall layouts and furniture. So excellent. So glad to hear that.
That's good to hear.
Oh, and Carl is asking Eric a specific question. Will you be releasing No Experience Required book for Revit soon?
I did, yes. I just released the 2020 version. It's the first one since 2014 that I actually endorsed, because I think the other versions were just rewrites. So I completely rewrote it. So yes, I released 2020. If you get a hold of me, I'll just give you a copy, because you brought it up. So I'll just send you a copy.
Oh, that's very kind.
Yeah, get a hold of me on LinkedIn. I got a box of them. I can't give them away. So I'll send you a copy.
Okay, well, Carl's saying yes, I'll do that. So great. Okay, and Ahmed asked the question. So Ahmed is saying, working with options is quite helpful. However, major issues are transferring the project to another architect to work on and proceed with, Usually they have limited or no knowledge of options. Also, sharing the model with service engineers, I have issues getting them to use the options.
Yes. Yeah, and like I said, that's, again, I can't go back to communication enough. And like I said, it's like, oh man, I got options. Now I have to deal with all these people that have no idea how to use them. It's like, I did the right thing, but now what? Now I got to send this to people who, A, are probably adamantly opposed to even the word, and B, I got to teach them how to do this. And now if there are any mistakes, it's on me, because I'm the one who came up with this stuff. So it's that, I found that I just bite the bullet. You know, when I send it out, it's because we're in both stages. So we'll do architecture with an MEP sub, and we'll do MEP, who the architect is the prime, and we're a sub to them. In both cases, I've seen it fall apart in that exact aspect. You give them some design options, they don't know. They start copying and pasting stuff. They start doing the wrong thing, and suddenly they're blaming you and the design options, whereas it's just a knowledge transfer that didn't happen. I know I'm kind of dodging the question or the comment, but you're right in line with man, I love using them, but it's hard to communicate to an entire design team. And that's why my second to last bullet is is on there. Man, I like to accept that primary option and get on with our lives. So that's a great comment.
Yeah, excellent. And Ian is asking the question, is it realistic to expect engineers or record architects to be willing to pursue multiple options? What's your take on that?
It is. Oh,
yeah.
Absolutely. And that's where I get a little bit, I don't really bend on that, because if you keep avoiding this, you're going to keep avoiding learning how to do it. Like, how long do you want to be half good at this program? You know, I put it out there in those terms. It doesn't always go over very well, but learn it now. That way, our next project, you know what you're doing, right? And I understand that it's not the perfect process. It's not. However, you know, learn what the software is going to give you, and then you at least know what to expect, and you're ready for it. And I wish I could say that I've got people in my office right now that doesn't know I'm on this conversation promoting design options, right? Because it's, once you've been in trouble with them once, you're not going to go back to it. Yeah, it's human nature. I'm like that. But by learning it, biting the bullet, working through the issues, it's just something that we have to do. And it's unfortunate, but it's just, we had to learn Revit, right? We had to do that. That wasn't the easiest thing. I liked it better than some of the other programs, but it wasn't easy. This is the same with design options, the same with any kind of technology, you know? So.
Well, and you know, my thought is, why not provide your clients with multiple design options? I mean, they're paying you the big money to design exactly what they want. And sometimes they don't know exactly what they want. And so providing them options, they'll be like, oh, that looks really good, but wow, that one looks amazing. Yes, let's go with that. And they didn't even know they wanted that option. So.
Right. And also with the amazing design option comes the schedules and the costing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, well, here's your awesome design option, but here's the reality of that option. So you're going to go with the other one? Okay, I'm going to accept that. and
yeah, budget plays a big role in the which one you could choose, doesn't it? Excellent. Well, I don't see any other questions coming in. Oh, actually I do.
Good.
Oh, so Beth is asking, any idea how Navisworks deals with design options? Do you know?
Yeah, so Navisworks is funny when it comes to that. So you're not really switching the options. So here's what I do for Navisworks. I will have a 3D view set for that option, and then I'll export that to an NWC, change the option, export that to an NWC. Unfortunately, there's an overlap in Navisworks. If you're doing clash detection, that's pretty aggravating. but now with Navisworks, just turn that model on or off. I wish there was more of an eloquent solution, but it's kind of the same with phasing and everything else. So I'll do a double export. I know Navisworks has the capability of opening the Revit model and it creates a Navisworks cache. And that's nice because you can refresh it in Navisworks, and in this method you cannot. But to me, that's been my workaround to get it into Navisworks. Great question. Glad you're using Navisworks.
It is great that you're using Navisworks. I love that you're thinking about the whole process and how to handle that. So excellent question, Beth. All right, Oswald is asking the question, as an alternate route, especially in multi-residential projects, I have been using groups to switch apartment options. Ooh, that's nice. Is this a common practice? I usually limit the use of the design option tool in early design phases for making design decisions, especially with the clients.
Okay. Yes, it is. And the only thing I caution are groups will add a lot of weight to your model. But they're a great compact way of doing it, and we do the same thing. We do a lot of healthcare. So we'll have, typical patient rooms, typical emergency rooms, and we'll certainly use those as groups, and we can just switch them out. So that's not a bad idea. The only problem is once you're done with those options, they're still there, right? So now you're trailing back through trying to clean your model up. Depending on how big your project is, if it's not that big, who cares? But if it is big, you're going to start to suffer latency, and you're going to have other users that will stumble over all the different groups you have. So I think design options are cleaner for the model database, but groups are certainly a practiced option, I'll say, for this kind of thing. I've done that too, and I've also put groups on design options, so it's elements within the group. So that's a good way to do it, and I wouldn't discourage that. Just be careful of the model size.
Excellent. And Beth made one more comment. Same with Lumion and such. I had to teach people how to set the view in Revit. So, yep, excellent.
Yeah, it's all about where you're sending out. And Lumion is a big one. We use that a lot. Love that program. But yeah, that's very consistent with the view and of course the materials, right? Because like you said, a lot of times you're using design options not to change anything, just the material on that element. And Lumion needs to know those materials. So yeah, that's a good point.
Excellent. Excellent. Any other questions? Definitely ask away. Just as a reminder, you will be prompted to do a survey at the end of this, as soon as I end the webinar. So I highly recommend you let us know what topics are you interested in. I wrote down the one topic about how to use design options when the architecture model has them. How do you make them show up in your MEP model or structural model or whatever the case might be? So that's one that we'll definitely pursue for the future. So thank you for that. But yeah, what other questions do you have? What is stopping you from using the software to its full potential? We want to help you. That's what I'm here for, is to help you do your job better. So definitely let me know. Eric, any other words of wisdom?
I think that's pretty much it. I really would like to hear from folks. I offer a free book. Give it away books for crying out loud. So yeah, please get a hold of me. I like to expand the conversation. So it's equally as beneficial to me as hopefully it is to you.
Yeah, and I appreciate your time today, Eric. I know you are very, very busy with all your BIM duties, and it's fun to have you on. Hopefully everyone enjoyed the presentation that we did today. Let us know what you thought, and let us know what you want to see next. So with that, I don't see any other questions coming in, so I think we'll go ahead and end. We'll give you about 5 more minutes back to your day, and we look forward to seeing you next month. So thanks, everyone. We enjoyed having you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.